The views and opinions expressed on Wrestling Winedown are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company. Hey, it's Lo, and you are tuned in to Wrestling Winedown, a female-founded and hosted podcast dedicated to professional wrestling and our favorite adult beverage. On this week's episode, I am joined by podcasters Krista B and Queen PR of Those Wrestling Girls. We'll be chatting about the latest in professional wrestling, including the best matches and moments from Raw, SmackDown, and NXT ahead of TakeOver 30 and SummerSlam. We'll also be chatting about Retribution, the newly formed group that has taken over Raw and SmackDown, and of course, our newest segment, Sip and Tell. So grab your glass of wine. We're going in for the 3 count. As I mentioned in my intro, I have Queen PR and Krista B here from Those Wrestling Girls. How are you ladies doing today?
Good. I can't complain. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us, Krista B.
Yeah, and Queen PR, thank you for having us.
How did you guys both get into professional wrestling? As I mentioned, you guys have a podcast. You've been doing that for a while, but how did your love of wrestling begin?
Mine started, I tell a story all the time. I recently just told my brother this. I told him that I had mentioned him in one of our episodes. But yeah, it's because of my brother I got into wrestling. Like, we would always come upstairs or be in the house, and Attitude Era was the thing to watch and be a part of. My brother got me into wrestling, watching Monday Night Raw. You know, he was a Stone Cold fan. I was a Rock fan. And it was just like, who's better? Who's going to win at WrestleMania? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? What is Austin going to do? What is Rock going to do? And that's how I really got into it. And I kind of stayed into it for a little bit. And then, you know, I fell off, you know, high school times, and you really can't watch no more. And then I got back into it because of the women's matches, the Bella Twins, Naomi, Paige, right before the Evolution started.
Yeah, pretty much the same kind of as Krista. When I was younger, my dad got my sister and I into it during the Attitude Era. We were like obsessed and fell off in high school. And then it wasn't until like my mid-20s that I got back into it, and then the women's evolution started, and it was just like so like exciting again, where it was just like, oh my god, I have to watch Raw, I have to watch SmackDown. And then Krista and I met, and then we were able to like talk about it with each other all the time, and then we came up with the podcast. So then I gave us more of and then Evolution was just like kismet with the timing of everything was perfect. So so that's how we got into it.
How did you guys come up with the name Those Wrestling Girls? I've heard on, I think it was Queen of Any's podcast, where one of you guys said at first you didn't like the name, and the other one was like, well, we have to have this name. You wanted it so bad, and you guys finally agreed on it. So what was the process behind that?
Like PR said, we were just talking and trying to try to figure stuff out, and we were doing research on like who's doing what in wrestling podcast world and things of that nature. And I said, oh my gosh, we should come up, our name should be Those Wrestling Girls. And P didn't like it at all. Like, she's like, what about this? What about that? I'm like, no, like, it should be Those Wrestling Girls, because at the end of the day, you're always going to want your name in somebody's mouth. Whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, your name is still being in their mouth. So I was like, they can be like, oh my God, you're Those Wrestling Girls. Or it could be like, ew, I don't like those wrestling girls. Like, either way, people will be like, okay, and then they'll draw the conversation. So she still wasn't sold on it. So I did like a little IGTV test run. Like, oh, we're Those Wrestling Girls, you know, this, that, third. She was a sport. She was with it. Like, she did it. And then one day she texted me like, you're right, we should keep the name. And we kept the name. And ever since then, it's just been, oh my God, you're Those Wrestling Girls. You're one half of Those Wrestling Girls. It was more so of a marketing strategy that she wasn't getting at the time, even though she's like big on marketing and KPIs and all this stuff. For the name, she wasn't getting. I'm just like, listen, trust me, please. And that's how we kept Those Wrestling Girls as a name.
And you guys started right after Evolution, right?
Yes. That was our very first episode. We started right after Evolution. We, like he said, it was like a kismet thing that just happened. And we was trying for a long time to figure out when we was going to start, what we was going to talk about, we knew what our niche was going to be, but it's just figuring out when we was going to do it, because we didn't want to be like a podcast that just give constant reviews after every Raw or SmackDown.
Right.
So after Evolution came, it just hit us like on our way home. It just hit us like, we have to do it this way. We have to do it like this, and this is just how it's going to be. And that's how we did our first episode after. It was an actual recap episode, but then people started wanting to hear more, because if you listen to our episodes, we kind of veer off topic and bring up other things that we could talk about in future episodes. Everyone's like, oh my God, I love that. Keep going. So that's how our first episode came up, which was the Evolution recap episode.
Let's get into the action of this week. We saw Asuka versus Bayley on Raw, which I believe could have been the main event. And as usual, these two worked very well together. What did you guys think of this match?
I loved it. Like, I was watching it and I was just like, oh, wow, like this is really good. Like the counters. And I always felt like Bayley's moveset was like underrated. Like, I always felt like we don't talk about it enough.
I agree. Yeah.
Again, like Sasha is always meshed with Bayley, and Sasha is such an amazing wrestler, but so is Bayley, and I think this match just definitely showed that for sure.
Yeah, I love the match as well. Bayley's skill set for me is what it was when Ronda Rousey kept performing. Like, it just kept getting better and better. And now with Bayley as a heel, you never know what's in her arsenal. You never know what she's going to bring to the table. And her fighting Asuka, although she lost, you know, her fighting Asuka was just like, oh, she can really go toe-to-toe with like one of the top strikers in the women's division and wrestling in general. So it was good to see that side of her, because, you know, that's something that we really didn't see from Bayley. Like, we saw bits and pieces between her and Sasha at TakeOver Brooklyn, but you didn't see like the real rawness of Bayley until that Asuka match on Monday.
Which is interesting, because then we had that triple brand women's battle royal, and I was not a fan of that. I think, first of all, you know, the use of Sasha and Bayley to introduce just 4 competitors and then the rest of the women ran to the ring, that was a little bit weird. It seems like they didn't know what they were doing. They had Asuka come out, and then after Asuka came out and started attacking Banks and Bayley, then you see Naomi come out, you see all the other women come out, and I'm kind of like, y'all couldn't have given them an entrance? It was very messy the way they did it. We saw another face-off between Bianca Belair and Tamina, which is the second time this has happened. And everyone is kind of wondering, what is the meaning behind this? Is it them trying to show who's stronger than the other? Is there some type of background story to this that we don't know about? It was just really strange. But did you guys also notice, this pissed me off, when Naomi got eliminated, Corey Graves said, sounds like a hashtag isn't going to win this battle royal. Did you catch that?
Yeah, Corey Graves is shady. Is really shady. But you're right. There were some aspects of that match that threw me off, like them running out. I do like the Tamina and Bianca build-up. It's something that we used to see back in the Attitude Era. Like, you would just put these two together, and you would hear JR say, oh, these two we've been waiting for this. And then nothing really happens. So I feel like they need to keep building that brand, although it sucks because Tamina's on SmackDown and Bianca's on Raw, and Bianca has to worry about Zelina for SummerSlam if that match happens. But I do like the build, because it is a test of strength. Like, who knew Bianca was really going to throw Tamina over that top rope like that? Like, I had to send out a tweet, like, Bianca, what is going on? Like, nobody knows her strength. Like, nobody knows any of these women's strengths.
Agreed, right.
So it was good. Like, it was nice to see some of that being displayed during that match. I was kind of confused, because I thought I was in the time warp when Asuka won.
Same, yeah.
I was like, wait, did she beat Bayley to fight Sasha? Like, I was so confused. But then that's also going to build to Sasha versus Bayley, because of the shade that Bayley threw at Sasha backstage. So I was here for the match, just because of the little outcomes, the little victories that people overlook.
I definitely expected something different. I didn't know if they were going to have Naomi win here. I also didn't know if they were going to have Shayna Baszler win, because she was in the last 3, and she hasn't really had anything going for her other than the Raw Underground appearance this week, but she's kind of hasn't been put on the pedestal that she was in NXT, and rightfully so. She was a strong competitor in NXT, and they just haven't utilized her properly since she's been up to the main roster. But it was interesting to have Asuka win. I don't think anyone expected it. I saw the tweets that everyone was sending out, like, what? how is she going to fight two people in one night? I mean, we know how powerful Asuka is and how competitive she is, but still, they have so many other women on the roster that I felt like they could have gone down a couple different avenues to reach the final result, which is probably Sasha versus Bayley. I don't think we needed to add Asuka into a second title match in the same night.
True.
I
agree with that. I definitely agree with that. But I also feel like this is like Oscar vengeance against them too because of what they did to Kyrie. Like Mexico has said that Bayley ended Kyrie's career. So I feel like this is Oscar's sense of payback. And if it goes all the way, that would be like, this is for me and Kyrie. But I do feel like Naomi should have definitely been one of the last few people in the ring. Shayna Baszler, I could see her, but at the same time, the spotlight isn't on her. It doesn't need to be on her right now. Like, she just needs to cool off for a little bit. We'll see what happens at SummerSlam.
We also saw Alexa Bliss's involvement with The Fiend and Braun Strowman, which has been very interesting. How do you guys feel about this? It seems like WWE is almost trying to split up Nikki and Alexa as a team, so they're putting Alexa in this avenue that we didn't really expect from her. We did see some involvement with them. Nikki gave her a hug backstage and was worried about her, told her to go home, and Alexa told her, oh no, I'll stay here, kind of figured things out. We didn't see her in the match, the Triple Brand Women's Battle Royal, which caught me off guard. Alexa Bliss has been champion numerous times, so it definitely seems like they're going down that route of having her fully involved in this storyline with The Fiend and Braun Strowman.
Yeah, because I'm very intrigued, personally, just because I think Alexa has a lot of charisma that she can kind of pull up. I would love to see her in a different type of role, in a darker, more sinister type of thing. What I'm afraid of though, I've enjoyed everything so far, is I just don't want them to kind of use her as a pawn in Braun in The Fiend, or this damsel in distress sort of thing. I just feel like, because Alexa Bliss she's capable of so much more than that, than just to be used in a pawn. And honestly, that feud isn't interesting enough for me. I feel like, to use Alexa as just a pawn for it, I feel like Alexa could be used for so much more. I'd rather it lead into maybe her being more aligned with Bray Wyatt, or that whole thing of when people are with The Fiend, they're never the same, and we see something totally different from Alexa. I feel like her and Nikki did what they could do. I also would like to see Nikki change into something else, but I'm intrigued. It's exciting, every week, because I also love The Fiend, so I'm just okay, what's gonna happen?
When you think back to how Nikki Cross really started, her deep, dark character that she had with Sanity would fit perfectly with The Fiend. I'm kind of wondering why WWE hasn't maybe put that type of persona on Alexa Bliss in this situation. This has been interesting. Ever since we saw her involvement at Extreme Rules in that whole swamp match, I think everyone has kind of just been like, is she Sister Abigail? There's been just so many unanswered questions, but it really is intriguing, like you said.
Like P said, it's going to be on somebody goes with Bray and they never come back to be the same again. So I also feel like it could be a split personality type thing with Alexa, because she does play those roles very well. So she can just be like Bray, you got Bray and The Fiend. So she could be Alexa and then Sister Abigail when it needs to be. When Braun said he wanted The Fiend, she was like, you better be careful what you're asking for. So that right there made it seem like, oh wait, she may turn, she just may be a Sister Abigail. She just may be that person that everybody on Twitter is saying that she is. So I don't know. It'll be an interesting dynamic. So we just have to see what it's going to be.
Speaking of SummerSlam, we also know that Dominic Mysterio is going up against Seth Rollins in a street fight, and they had a contract signing this week, and 2 contracts were signed. So the match itself, the contract was signed, but we also saw Dominic Mysterio sign as an official WWE superstar. But that attack after, wow. I saw the pictures online. I watched it. Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins absolutely went insane with that kendo stick, or kendo sticks, on Dominic. And I think it's going to be a rough one. I don't know if Rey Mysterio is going to be involved here, just because they're trying to continue with this whole, his eye was messed up in this eye for an eye match, and he's never going to be the same again. So I don't know if he'll have any involvement in the match at SummerSlam, but how are you guys feeling about this? I think Dominic he's definitely a strong competitor for being as young as he is, but also the son of a luchador. I think he's been doing a great job, but Seth Rollins as his real first competitor in the WWE, that's a strong one.
One, I felt so bad. I was just brought back to my 7-8-year-old self. I felt like I was watching the the Mick Foley, The Rock's I Quit match, which I still can't even watch to this very day. It gave me nightmares. So I felt like that, like I was cringy. But at the same time, after seeing it and going on Twitter and like Andrade, Rey Mysterio put out, anybody that has Mexican bloodline is behind Dominic and like Seth Rollins, watch out. So I can only imagine what's going to happen, especially if they execute this street fight like it's supposed to be, like a real street fight. Oh, I can only imagine what's going to happen at SummerSlam. I really can't wait to see that match.
I agree with Krista. Like, I at first, because I knew like Dominic getting involved, I was like, okay, he's gonna end. Like, let's just WWE, let's get this over with. And then finally, I'm like, okay. And it is a lot of pressure, like being a legend's son, and then your first like official match is on a pay-per-view with Seth Rollins.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
Like.
On NXT, we saw the triple threat qualifying match for the North American Championship ladder match at TakeOver 30. And we saw the return of Velveteen Dream, and Twitter absolutely went insane over this. As we know, Velveteen Dream has had allegations against him with the speaking out movement, and he was off TV for a couple months, and everyone assumed it was because of these allegations. They were keeping him on the low, and now he's back. They mentioned nothing on commentary. They didn't release any statement regarding this. And a lot of people are upset. They think that WWE kind of swept everything under the rug since they didn't really mention anything that happened or confirm or deny the allegations, but they have him on TV, which the same could be said about Matt Riddle, who is still wrestling on SmackDown, and he's had allegations against him, but he's still on TV and they have mentioned nothing. Were you guys surprised to see Velveteen Dream at this time, or were you kind of expecting him to come back sooner rather than later?
Sometimes Wednesdays it's hard for me to catch NXT to watch like who comes up and who, you know, is back in return. But when you said Velveteen Dream, I knew that he was out. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised that he's back. And I'm not surprised that he's back due to the allegations and stuff against him. I'm just surprised that he's back because there's so much restrictions on those who are wrestling right now due to the pandemic. So to see him come back, I'm just like, okay, or to hear that he's back. And sometimes all matters should not be broadcast on TV. So for people to be upset, the fact that there was nothing on commentary about his allegations, that's just what they are. They're allegations. There's no truth to it right now. And if there is, some things could just be kept private and handled in a private manner. Like Matt Riddle, he came out with his statement. Like he made a whole video online about it. So why would WWE need to reiterate that and put that in commentary when you're supposed to focus on wrestling? Focus on, I can see if you had an injury. Focus on, you know, something of that nature. Everything does not have to be said on TV just for fans to be like, well, why is he still on TV? He's a jerk. He's this, he's that. You're there for the person. You're there for the talent. So watch it for that. But I'm here for Velveteen Dream. I feel like he does need another shot.
So we saw Keith Lee and Karrion Kross sign their contracts for their matchup at TakeOver 30, and a firebomb appeared once Keith Lee opened his contract, which is something that we definitely don't see on a weekly basis on NXT. NXT obviously ran with it. They had pictures up. They had GIFs up everywhere. Absolutely insane, but it does add fuel to the fire, no pun intended, to their match at TakeOver 30. I'm looking forward to this match. This is one of Keith Lee's first title defenses as NXT champion. As we know, he was a double champion after he defeated Adam Cole. He did relinquish his North American championship to focus solely on the NXT championship. And Karrion Kross has been a very dominant force ever since he signed to NXT and has appeared with Scarlett Bordeaux. We'll see how that goes. I think it's going to be a very interesting match. It probably will main event TakeOver 30. Are you guys looking forward to this match?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to anything Keith Lee is going to do with the NXT champion. Like Krista, it's hard for me on Wednesdays, but I like what Scarlett Bordeaux and Karrion Kross are doing, so I think that's just going to be a really cool main event. But like, I don't think he's going to lose the title, but I think we're going to see a lot of good matches out of Keith Lee while he's champion.
Agreed.
Definitely agree.
Let's talk about Retribution. We've seen them on Raw. We've seen them on SmackDown. They are wreaking havoc everywhere they go. They are crashing windows. They're cutting ring ropes with chainsaws. They're doing all a bunch of stuff. But who do you guys think is a part of this whole group? I've had some theories on it. I shared a theory last week, but now I'm kind of second guessing. I'm seeing that there's rumors that they're changing people out because they aren't sure who they're going to put in the actual group once they name everyone. But who do you think is going to be included in it?
I don't have any guesses. Like, I don't know. I am just so thankful that I have seen 2 or 3 women spring out every time they made an appearance. So I'm just very thankful for that. I do hope it's talent that hasn't been used and this is giving them an opportunity to be used, as opposed to like a whole new crop of talent. And I know that sounds horrible, but like, that like mid card people, like a bulk of them that just like, you don't see them ever. You're
right.
just like, this is like an opportunity for them to, especially women, to get noticed.
Yeah, I don't have a clue either. Like, because in my mind, Dean Ambrose comes back and he's a part of that. But yeah, so that's in my mind. Yeah, I don't know. I do hope that it is new talent that will get to be utilized more by WWE. Like, they're really good at keeping this under wraps for sure. I just can't wait to see when they are revealed, because it's starting to become jarring to keep seeing them.
It has been interesting to me seeing the women that are involved. They really don't hide their hair. So I've seen redheads, I've seen curly hair, I've seen brown highlights, and there's so many women to choose from that you could think of who it is. But it will be interesting to see overall who is involved in this. But interestingly, they haven't attacked NXT, which made me think maybe it's some NXT talent involved. And if you also have noticed, commentary seems to be using the word retribution way more in other segments. They mentioned it in the Battle Royal. They mentioned it on Raw. I don't know if it's just a coincidence or if they're doing this on purpose, but retribution seems to be the word of the week for them. Let's get into our newest segment, Sip and Tell. WWE is set to introduce a new fan interactive experience at the Amway Center. So it was announced earlier this week that WWE will be having some of their shows, if not all of them, moving out of the Performance Center, going to the Amway Center, which is also in Florida. But they're also looking to have some type of quote unquote new interactive experience where there's LED boards where fans will appear. And Michael Cole actually mentioned something on commentary about fans being involved on SmackDown. That should be interesting. I was looking and seeing that NBA is actually doing the same thing with their fans. They have some type of like stadium set up and they virtually put their fans in seats, which, I mean, it is exciting. It's different from what we would usually expect, especially in these unprecedented times. You have to go and think further, think of how you can incorporate the fans. So hopefully they get some super fans in there. Hopefully they have some women in there. Let's see what they do. How do you guys feel about this? Will you be applying? Will we see those wrestling girls in the crowd?
Short answer is yes, of course. We're applying. That's it. The long answer is I'm excited. I mean, I know that WWE is doing a lot with the talent, like the NXT talent and things of that nature when it's Raw and SmackDown. But I'm excited to see the interactive audience like they do in the NBA, because I feel like it'll bring us that sense of wrestling community like it used to feel when we were actually at live events and live shows, because sometimes the audience members don't do what we need for them to do, like when we're there, like it's been times where like Shayna Baszler would have got a major pop when she came back, but everybody was just kind of like stone quiet or like beating on the shields or whatever. So it was just like, oh man. Or the whole thing with Dominic, that would have got some type of pop too. And sometimes it's just not there. So hopefully they can do it in a way that we can be wrestling fans to make it seem like we're actually in the arena.
In other news, Kofi Kingston was a recent guest on Table Talk, and he kind of went into his incredible Royal Rumble spots and where the inspiration comes from to perform them every year. And he said John Morrison inspired him. As we know, John Morrison has been in the WWE in and out. He was there in the late 2000s, and he recently returned to team with The Miz and also have a singles run. So here's what Kofi Kingston said, quote unquote, for me, so John Morrison, he was the one. I always give him credit because he's the one who got knocked off the barricade and then Spider-Man, like Spider monkeyed on the barricade and came back on. As we know, Kofi Kingston does some incredible spots in the Royal Rumble, and this has been almost a yearly thing for him. And we've also seen the women, especially Naomi, do some incredible spots in the Royal Rumble. And honestly, they aren't looked at enough. And we think, oh, it'll happen, or oh, this will happen. Like, I think in this year's Royal Rumble, we didn't even see him do any spots. And people were surprised because that's what you look forward to in a Royal Rumble. Seeing those moments that don't happen weekly on television or at every pay-per-view. I'm hoping at next year's Royal Rumble, they do incorporate it. It should be interesting, though, to see how the Royal Rumble would be done in the fashion that they have right now with the barricades up, with the glass up. As we mentioned earlier, the different times and different measures that, the world is going through right now, it should be interesting to see how WWE incorporates different stuff that these callbacks that we're used to in their future matches.
Agreed. I love hearing about when what inspired other wrestlers, and it's really cool because I think Morrison does parkour or something, so he's really athletic and really agile. So the fact that Kofi can even copy what Morrison does just talks about how talented Kofi Kingston is.
Yeah, I agree too. And the fact that we get to see it in Naomi as well, how she, during that first Royal Rumble, she was amazing. I didn't even know what was going on, what was happening. I'm just wait, the first thing I said was, oh my God, she's pulling a Kofi Kingston. First thing I said. So for us to see that it stemmed from, because Naomi did say Kofi was the one, and she was she just wanted to try it, and she pitched it, and it worked. So for it to stem from John Morrison, it's a good thing to see how it can trickle down and let these other superstars put their own twist on crazy, crazy stunts to get a pop at Royal Rumble.
Finally, WWE is adding a lot more content to the WWE network. It was announced this week that shows including Evolve, WXW, Progress, and Insane Championship Wrestling will begin airing on the WWE network. It's already up if you want to go watch it. And the content includes compilation specials. They have work from Drew McIntyre when he was in Evolve, as well as Keith Lee's rise and Evolve as well. And this has been a rumor for a while now that WWE was buying Evolve. I think Evolve filed for bankruptcy a couple months ago because of coronavirus, and they weren't able to get back to where they were since they can't do live events. So kind of knew that WWE was going to buy Evolve, but wasn't expecting the last 3 promotions to be included in the deal as well. But hey, it's more wrestling. We're seeing where these superstars who are now on the main roster are part of NXT, where they came from, and how they began their wrestling career.
I think it is really, really, really cool to be able to get that feel on the network, to get that real indie feel. And you wouldn't think you would be able to see some of this on the WWE network. So that's another shocking thing. And then it also was smart because of AEW was kind of the new home for the indie darlings. So I think it was really smart for WWE network to tap into that and be you know what, that you can see some of that here as well. So I think it's cool.
Let's just say Vince McMahon is the epitome of money making and investing, okay? Look that up in a dictionary and Vince McMahon's face is right there. It's like PR said, I think it is a good idea because AEW, for me, AEW gives me kind of WCW vibes, and sometimes I really can't get into it, but you have a lot of indie wrestling fans who love it. Love, love, love. So, and it's just okay, so what can WWE do? And, you got to stay in competition. You got to always beat your competitors. So for them to put that on the app, which people already subscribe to, which we get more people to subscribe to, it was just a genius move on WWE's part. So, yeah, and PR said, you don't think that you'll see your favorite wrestlers now that,
right.
How is back then. Or you don't think, or sometimes people want to learn about Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre, or aside from a 24 or 365 or something like that. So to see they're actually wrestling careers on the indie scene is definitely a good investment, a good profit that WWE made.
Thank you, PR and Krista V, for joining me today on Wrestling Winedown. It was so great to have you guys here. Where can the people find you on social media?
They can find us on Twitter at T Wrestling Girls, Facebook, and our Facebook discussion group at Those Wrestling Girls, and on Instagram, Those Wrestling Girls, as well as subscribe to us on YouTube, Those Wrestling Girls, and sign up to be a patron of ours. We have exclusive interviews up there. We have some really, really dope content. We kind of do it all. So yeah, just make sure you follow, subscribe, and also send us some of your ideas of what you would want us to speak about, because we're always open to those as well.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wrestling Winedown. You can find all of our other episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you listen to your podcast. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at WWDCAST. Our new website is also coming soon. Let us know what you thought about the episode. What was your favorite part? We upload episodes with brand new co-hosts every week. Until next time, enjoy your wine and, of course, enjoy your wrestling. Cheers!